There has been a lot of discussions about China and Japan. So I heard people even call it, if China now is having the Japanese disease. All right, so let's try to go through this. So, let's see sort of similarities and differences. I try to emphasize the differences, but there are also similarities for quite a long period. So the ideas for similarities actually promoted by several international banks. And this guy, Nomura guy, Richard Qiu, and so they draw parallels between China and Japan, particularly China now and with Japan in the 90s. They say China is facing a similar, the Japanese 3D challenge, that is debt, demographics, and deflation. And then because of the problems, so the companies and the households, they are fixing their balance sheet recession. So they are not really active in production. Some people do not agree. They say the Japanese firms, companies, they are very active overseas. But for the domestic problem, so the government has to fill the gap. So this is the game. They say that the Japanese one. But then we could argue that China actually is different. So how could we say China is having a Japanese disease? So China has a distinctly different institutional model of growth, so that endogenously engineers rapid growth regardless efficiency, driven by competitions between local governments motivated by highly politicized growth targets. So they make the growth targets political. So that's something quite unique for the Chinese model in the past maybe 25 or 30 years. Okay, so let's see, those charts are not big enough, I'm sorry. Because I cut them from Morgan Stanley. And then I try to work on this. If you like it, so you ask Xiaobing, so you can have it. Okay, the first one is China's debt challenge. So let's see, I put these slopes. You see how amazingly the slopes actually are the same. So no matter what, so after you have a shock, and then so you can get back. You get back with the same capacity of the previous loans, whatever you build up there, rather than the market will redirect you. And to me, this can be quite amazing. Okay, so I put it here, right? All right, let's see from here to here. This is leverage and the deleverage and the leverage again and the deleverage. But here we see that, so even you with a strong leverage push, actually the deflation become a more problematic, right? So this is the zero line. And so what we can see, the deflation actually is very much to do with the surplus capacity. Okay. And now let's see, companies began to quickly build up their debts over this period I indicated, and so did households over 2016 and 20. It is, however, so impossible to continue after 2020. This is what we can see from the chart. Okay, so that's households. So down this one, the number 4 exhibition here is, so they are the population changes measured particularly by age dependency ratio. So China is still not that old, right? So if this blue line, the slightly light blue line is China, and the dark blue is the Euro area, and yellow is Japan, and the dots is US. So if we compare China and Japan, so remember what we did in that table. So China is now 2018, 8,000 ppp, and the Japanese by the time of the bubble burst, Japanese already doubled that one. So China and Japan, so they are not on the same footing. Okay. All right. If you say so, if you compare the dependence ratio, so certainly, so because by this time, so China is still half of Japanese per capita income, so China has a premature aging, and this is a challenge. Okay. Now we see the housing problem. So this is one of the major problems currently. I use this chart. This is a chart, I think, by Richard Koo, Nomura research. Okay, so now you see, before I add more things, you see there's four actually lines. The purple and the green, so they are Japanese housing index price. So one is the Tokyo area, the purple, and the green one is the Kyoto, Osaka area. And these two blue lines, one is darker, one is lighter. So one is the existing Beijing house price, and this one is Beijing new housing price. Actually, so we cannot, with this chart, we cannot exactly control the time. But when Richard Koo made this one, he had this sense in his mind. So you see these two time axes, they are different, right? Okay, so if you try to match what's China now, okay, so we should go back to at least 1970, before the oil crisis starts. So according to the previous table, right? Okay, so let's frame these two lines, the Japanese one. Okay, so let's introduce the slope, the two slopes. My purpose is to compare, and this is the Chinese one. Okay, the 2 points here is the authorities introduced controls. That's what I said. This particular China model of the economy is, sometimes the government actually stepped in to try to change the market, right? Okay, so, right, so if you know this kind of, this one, if you ignore the shock, you make a curve this way, and for the two different curves, you can compare the two. Actually, they are quite close, right? This is what I mean here. So you have to, if you try to compare, so you have to compare to the much early time. All right, so the 40 years earlier.